Hi all, I had quite an interesting game last night playing in the Herts Knockout Cup. So this is separate from the actual main league, so a knockout format, and this was the semi-final for the knockout against the mighty Hertford Chess Club, who have an international master, Simon Knott, playing on board 1, Swanson on board 2, who's over 210, Byway, a British senior champion, on board 3. I was playing a very talented junior player, Sucikova, Svetlana Sucikova, who I played last year. So I was playing with the black pieces, and I was a little bit concerned for this game. I wanted to play well. The week before, on a Monday, I've had such an embarrassing game. I haven't gone over it yet on YouTube. I managed to blunder 2 nights in a row, and I put it down to having a cold still. I had taken paracetamol last week, and before the game, a few hours before the game, for this headache, and I just couldn't understand how I'd missed a lot of just basic tactics, and I guess I'm going to show you that soon, that game. But anyway, so I was in a nutshell, I was a bit insecure about my tactical ability here when playing this game. Would it be some sort of repeat disaster? So anyway, c4, I play the Dutch defence f5, and she plays d4, I play knight f6, and I go into the Leningrad, I play g6, after knight f3, bishop g7, and quite an unusual move I thought here, e3 instead of the usual fianchetto. If we just check live book out of interest, this is actually the second most popular move with 60 games. There's 195 with g3. So okay, if I can get bishop d3 and e4, it could be quite good. I castled bishop d3. Often here apparently bishop e2 has been played 23 games, but bishop d3 10 games. And okay, usually players with black apparently played d6 here 14 games. I actually played c5. I wanted to try and discourage e4, and we're kind of out of book already, so I'll put on a bit here. White castled, and now I played knight c6. I didn't really mind this. I thought I had some compensation if white takes there, but maybe, you know, it's not so clear. I thought this would be good, but maybe the d5 square, e4, and then maybe knight d5. This actually looks quite good for white. This is quite a dangerous gambit actually. The engine actually suggests to play b6 in this position, and this looks like less than half a pawn advantage. C takes, A takes. There's some compensation here going on, like this position. Looks as though, well, there's more central pawns for black. Bishop looks good, but still it's an advantage to white slightly. So anyway, actually a3 was played, and I thought I really should support this pawn. I played d6, which also means e5 could be on the cards. And now a rather unusual looking move, bishop d2. I thought this was passive, bishop d2, because it just lets me gain space in the centre. I thought I play e5. Okay, I've permanently weakened d5, though that pawn can't challenge anything on d5 later. I was expecting d5, and I was thinking here, if knight e7, then I thought knight g5 was interesting, you know, to get into the e6 square. I'm not sure, for example, if it pans out like this, then I thought something like knight d5 would be dangerous, but you know, with the bishop blocking, that's not even possible. Actually, I could just snap that off, unless this diagonal is dangerous. I think this can actually be snapped off here. I don't think this is working. 97. Okay, so I was concerned about that sort of stuff, but it didn't happen. d5 didn't happen. I mean, also as a reserve possibility, I thought if I get to this position, I could consider knight b8. So if knight g5, I can just play queen e7 to guard that e6 square. So anyway, this didn't happen. D takes e5 happened, and I was thinking I was a bit more optimistic here. I thought I haven't blundered the piece yet, so it's at move 10. I still haven't managed to blunder a piece or anything, so this is good news, and I seem to be getting my pieces going. So after bishop e2 now, as I was hitting that bishop anyway, e4. Now perhaps we're looking after is knight e1 to go here maybe. The engine actually suggests knight e1 isn't that hot. Bishop e6, and black could follow through with, for example, like this. That would be nice. There's pressure on c4. It looks to be a very comfortable position. For example, if we just follow this a little bit, like this, it looks very, very comfortable for black. What does white actually do here? White could be getting significant disadvantage. It looks like an octopus knight has installed itself on d3 there. So anyway, after e4, knight g5 though was played, and technically actually the engine suggests that is the best move. And I kick this knight, and I don't want this to go to that sensitive d5 square, so I stop the knight. And here, after queen c2, I suddenly thought, hold on a sec, f4 isn't prevented here. Can you see why f4 is not prevented, it seems, in terms of taking here? If I test you at this position, if you want to have 10 seconds here to pause the video. Okay, I was excited that f4 is not prevented, and I'll show you why. Well, this can't be played actually because of g4, it seems. Just g4 would win the knight. So I was very happy that I could play this with this imminent threat of f3 undermining the poor knight. So, and this also of course extends the scope of the bishop, so I was very happy here with this position. e4 is, I thought, wasn't hanging because of the bishop on d2. Now there's a very, very interesting possibility for white which wasn't played, f3, and actually it seems as though this could really backfire on black badly if not played carefully. For example, taking g4 to try and win a piece. White's bishop takes c6. Now, if b takes, then white would be much better. So the best here is g takes, and I think black still has a dangerous initiative like this, for example. So taking here, if bishop takes, knight here, and it looks as though d5 is a bit weak, but these dark squares are a bit sensitive. Engine suggests black slightly better here, and we had a look at these sort of positions after. That looks dangerous for queen h2, admittedly, but if white could survive this, there's prospects for white. On something like h3, then f3, and there's bishop e1, queen g5, but there's still some play for black. It's not so easy for white. In fact, black is better here, even in this sort of position. So anyway, but this is very, very interesting stuff from this move f3, and I was trying to calculate it, and I was looking at things like in this position, playing this first, but I don't think this really does anything. Bishop takes knight d4. White's got that grip here, so I think white almost should be okay with that d5, but black's okay as well still. Any g4 again, in this position, white can flick in a couple of checks, so bishop d5, and then put the knight on f4. So that showed how a sort of Petrosian-like backfire, where Petrosian would lure his opponents to attack and create weaknesses, and there's a kind of backfire possibilities with f3, but it seems overall black is still better here overall technically with the best moves. A very simple approach would actually be just to take this knight and then maybe take here and then knight d4, so the knight's not coming to f4, it's been eliminated. This position should be okay for black as well. So this looks okay, this kind of continuation. Knight h5, coming to f4, there's a lot of compensation, a lot of pressure here on white. Shattered pawn structure. So that would actually be quite a big advantage potentially for black. So anyway, coming back to the game, here knight takes e4 was played, not f3 but knight takes e4, which I thought was just losing a piece, surely. Well, there's a cunning little trick here after taking. Queen takes the. I pause here. What am I letting myself in for? Can you see what the cunning little trick white has in mind in this position after queen takes d2? If I give you 10 seconds to pause the video here. Okay, now I did see this trick, and I found a counter trick which might potentially win a piece. So queen takes d2. The trick was bishop d3 lining up here, and the thing is, it's not as simple as stopping it with bishop f5, and that's why initially I was looking for other things. But there's other possibilities here, like just moving the rook to cover the g6 square, or even here. It doesn't seem as though black should be totally in trouble objectively from the engine perspective anyway, but I thought it was a little bit on the frightening side, this position, because I thought my back row, but the knight's covering d8. So this position, I think, if black's not getting mated, it should be okay. Gets maybe a tiny bit scary, but it should be okay. It's +5 nearly for black objectively. So there is just rook f7, but I found an inferior way of doing this. Bishop f5. Another note was we're looking at knight e5. I think my opponent was expecting this, and after the check, this becomes a little bit murkier than needed. This position, in fact, after e takes f4, it's 0-0-0 here. So this knight e5, it looks intuitively as holding that, but white could get a lot of compensation here for sure now. Yeah, it's become a bit messy. Rook takes b7. I think the engine's seeing a perpetual check actually, and so that wouldn't be too hot if I wanted to win this game. So if we go back, so there's the various possibilities of defense here. It seems the three strongest possibilities the engine suggests in order of strength is rook f7 at this depth 16, rook f6, also rook d8. On rook d8, if we go in for the check here, it doesn't seem as though white's doing particularly that much. To bishop f8 to take, and if rook d1 here, I wonder what's going on here. Queen takes b2. Yeah, it just doesn't look as though the attack needs more pieces. This bishop is doing a fine defensive job. It doesn't look as though this is major either. So even rook d8 seems okay. But I played bishop f5, and I had in mind this cunning little trick that after the check here, king h8. Can you see what I had in mind? If I give you 10 seconds to pause the video, and why then it doesn't kind of work, or why it would work. Okay, I was relying on the queen being kicked actually. The queen needs to be kicked, because actually white can play bishop takes f5 here, attacking my queen. Now this position is probably white's best move objectively, to get back the piece at least. Black's best move objectively is f takes, and that leaves white struggling. This f takes, for example, if takes, this is no good. I've got too many pawns now. I've got pawn on d2. The knight's out of the game. Bishop's glaring down at b2. Massive advantage for black. Here, if f takes, again, this position is very good for black. But you know, I haven't won that piece, but it's just very, very good for black. So say queen e6. If I take on b2, the knight's again out of the game. It's an advantage for black. But that possibly that's white's best route here. But white, I think, blundered really objectively with this, because it allows my little trick to see the light of day. That after taking on b2, bishop takes f5. Can you see my little sting at the end of the towel? Okay, knight e7, just forking. That was what I had in mind when seeing just on the taking on d2 with the bishop d3 stuff. This knight e7, I just about saw this earlier. So winning a piece. So queen takes c5, knight takes f5, and here I thought it should be plain sailing, but I tried to be a bit careful. And in fact, after rook b1, I didn't want to lose another pawn just routinely. Maybe a bit overly cautious. I calculated b6 instead, thinking queen takes, my take, takes, and I've got rid of the queens basically. I thought it was safe to do this without losing another pawn. If I lose another pawn, I don't think it should be a big deal. In fact, just f takes. I don't think this should be a big deal. I'm a piece up, so it's like +5 for black. There shouldn't be any major problems here. There's a back row issue, so this is can't be taken, for example. I don't think there's any major problems there. But anyway, I was on the cautious side. Actually, technically, this is the best move, b6. The engine suggests b6 in this position. I might play queen d5. I've brought the queen back. After queen f3, knight h4, queen goes to h5. I find a way of trying to get the queens off. I play f3 here, g3, and now queen f5. So I want to get the queens off by attacking the knight here. And I expected now this next move, knight takes g5, which enables me to get the queens off, simplifying. And I thought this shouldn't be much of a problem, bishop f6, but now rook b5, and all of a sudden if I lose f3, that would be a bit of a concern. So I'm cautious of that. I played check, and now I play this, so I want to try and protect f3. I haven't switched off just yet. Bishop e7, I want to put my bishop now on c5, so protecting this pawn first. Rook g7, safeguarding the 7th rank first before doing anything. Now locking down the pawns, so I can now put my bishop on c5, pointing at f2. I mean, white's a piece down. There shouldn't really be too much of a problem from here. After rook e7, I'm actually threatening king g6 as well, so this pawn's given up. I just start mopping up these pawns, but I want to do so safely, not allowing this pawn to drop, so I'm going to reinforce that pawn before munching some pawns here. So rook takes c4, rook takes rook a2, and here my opponent, to my relief, resigned. Now, one of the things that happened from last week, I just realised, well, was I really in the playing zone of concentration for the game, or the results of the game? Because there's another aspect to these final games of the over the board season, is that ratings are calculated 6 monthly now on the ECF grading system, and it seems for the very first time I'm actually having the possibility of being over 200 on the standard rating list. And I didn't want to have these thoughts during the game of the potential risk factor if I lost. Would I be 199 again like 5 years ago? And actually, my good friend Paul Georgiou, he calculated that even if I lost, I'd still be around 205. So it took away this weight of thought, potentially irrelevant thought. Apparently, a grandmaster has written that during the game you shouldn't be focused on the results, and I think that's right. With our limited mental resources, if we can focus just on the task at hand rather than the results, I think that's a really important thing. But of course, if you can clear up such issues before the game, I think that's ideal. And I basically tried to clear that issue up before the game, that even if I lost it would be okay. So I'm pleased to say that if I don't lose too many games from now in the next month, I should be around 205, believe it or not. Well, that's what Paul's calculated at. Maybe he's got it wrong, but if that would be my highest ever over the board rating. So I'm hoping that the channel has improved my chess as well as helping improve your chess. So 6 monthly, it's not as great status as the old yearly, but still for me personally, it's an interesting achievement. If I don't go and play a tournament and get 0 in the tournament in the next month, but after that, I think I will be trying to play more competitively in any FIDE tournaments that are local to me. That I really want to boost my FIDE next, if that really is the case, of getting a peak ECF. I hope you enjoyed this game, and yeah, my opponent played passively, but I was, as I say, wasn't too confident in my chess before this game that much, considering last week's, which I'm going to show you soon. Okay, comments or questions on YouTube. Thanks very much.